Hey, what's up, and welcome to a very special episode of B is for Build. I'm Chris. We're here working on the 2JZ swapped BRZ, and today we're driving it. So there's quite a few things that we need to do before we're going to be able to get this thing on the road, and it's 3 o'clock now, so I got about 6 hours left of sunlight. It's going to be a crunch, but I'm going to crunch it in there. I'm going to get it done. Let's get started. Stay tuned, tune in, do whatever you do. Before I get started, I feel like I should address white shirt, stupid, I don't know what I was thinking. This is gonna get destroyed in no time flat. But let's get to work. So today we got a lot of stuff to do. We gotta do oil change, transmission fluid change, adjusting the suspension, finalizing the cooling system, just to name a few. There's quite a list of things that I absolutely have to do before I can drive this car. So let's go ahead and get started. I figure let's get started with the oil change. This is something quick and easy, kind of get the gears moving, pun intended, get me warmed up and ready for the next thing. Oil change. All right, we've drained the oil out of the car. Next, we're gonna go ahead and install the oil filter. But before that, I want to show you this neat piece of tech that we're also going to install. We haven't done this on any of the builds yet, but you'll see it more and more in the future. This is called an oil filter sandwich adapter plate. And it goes in between your oil filter. So the oil filter is actually gonna screw onto this thing now. And this thing screws on right here onto your car. What it gives you is it gives you some outputs for gauges and stuff like that to monitor different things related to oil. So you could imagine you could have an oil pressure gauge here and an oil temp gauge here. And that's what I'd like to be running in the future. So I'm going to go ahead and install this now with all the ports blocked off, and then when I get the gauges, I'll just pop one of these out and install it. That way I don't have to do a full oil change later on. Oil change went great. I got the sandwich adapter installed. That's all tight, looks great, and the oil looks great. So we're good on that. Next is transmission fluid. So we lost a lot of transmission fluid when it was spraying out the front here when we first started the motor, and we didn't have a transmission cooler installed, and we lost some out the back when we didn't have our driveline on. So, but when it did come out, the transmission fluid is in really good shape. So we could just top it off. But what we're going to go ahead and do is a drain and then a top off. So it's like it's a change, not a flush. And if you're interested in transmission fluid and the ins and outs of that and all the myth busting and stuff around that, Chris Fix did a great breakdown on all that stuff. His channel, I'm sure you guys are probably familiar with it. It's Chris, like my first name, F-I-X, Chris Fix. Search for him, you can find that video there, and it's really good quality video on all sorts of good transmission fluidy related things. All right, let's go ahead and change it. That's a wrap on transmission fluid. Next up, we gotta work with the cooling system. So it's gonna need a little bit topped off. We've lost a little bit of coolant over the time. We need to tighten down all the clamps and add clamps where we don't have them. So we have a couple up here, but everywhere else pretty much wasn't clamped down. So we gotta clamp it down, tighten it down. Also, this is gonna need some real slight modifications, a little bit of shaving around because the cap is really hard to screw on here. I need to loosen that up a little bit. It's just super tough right now. So I think the tolerances are just a tiny bit off. So I'm gonna come in here with some sandpaper, clean that up. That way we can get our cap on and off easily. Then we will fill it up and finish off the cooling system. Radiator's all wrapped up, got the fluid topped off. We were a little bit low because yesterday we accidentally lost some out the bottom since we didn't have our hose clamps on. Got hose clamps on everything. Then I just trimmed off a tiny fraction around here, fraction of a millimeter around here, just real quick with some sandpaper, and that was able to get loosen that up so I could get the cap on and off. It's still really tough, but it's not too tough. I don't know if you guys saw, I was working down here. What I did here was I temporarily duct taped a piece of metal, sheet metal, between this piece of the frame rail and the aluminum, because when you have steel on aluminum like this, it can really easily eat through the aluminum. So just for driving around over the next few days until I figure out a better solution for protecting the aluminum piping, there's a piece of steel taped on there so we don't eat through the aluminum piping. And I threw the valve cover on because it looks pretty and it will hopefully make it look a little less intimidating, and it matches the wheels. So as we're driving around today with no headlights, no front bumper, no fenders, hopefully, I think that valve cover will make people understand that this car is not dangerous. Next thing I want to do is install an inline fuel filter. We don't have one of these right now, and it's really easy to throw one in right here. This is our flow line, this is our feed line, and so I'm going to go ahead and crack this open. Right now there's actually a connecting piece in here, so it's going to be really easy to just throw in the inline fuel filter in there, and then I'll also be able to watch our fuel and verify that we have fuel if we're ever diagnosing any more issues. It'll be visible right there. There we go. Inline fuel filters installed. Let's test it out and watch some fuel action. Oh God, windshield wipers. Who turned my windshield wipers on? Come on, guys. Jesus. Did that work? Oh yeah, it's full of fuel. Okay. Alrighty, there's the fuel filter and it's doing its thing, and no leaks, no nothing, so that's good. We'll kind of tuck that back away where it belongs. I guess right there. Yeah. Okay. I have no idea what's next. 1 second. All right, we're getting really close to drive time. The next thing that we need to do is adjust the suspension. So if you guys remember the suspension, this car is sitting a little too low. So to do that, with these BC Racing coilovers, let me throw a light on here for you. You just loosen up this bottom ring and then you rotate the whole spring and this section completely together. You're gonna rotate it and you're basically unscrewing it. So when you unscrew it, this is gonna drop down more. If you wanted to lower your car more, you screw it in and that'll bring it up. So it's just loosening this bottom thing up with the tools that they provide and then spinning this guy and you'll be good to go. I have to do this on all four though, so here we go. Okay, we've successfully changed the ride height. We're great in the front. We've got plenty of room in the back. It's a little close, but it might be just perfect. We won't know until we work with it a little bit. There's about 2 fingers, maybe a little less, and then it's going to start rubbing on the waterproofing on the inside. But these are stiffer shocks, so you know we'll see how they run. We're getting very close to driving time. The next thing that we got to do is work with plumbing a few things into the dash. So you can see right here, there's 2 things that look like cables. This is actually vacuum hose. That's going to run. That's our boost line. That's got to run to our boost gauge. This is the signal wire that needs to go to our boost gauge as well. So these 2 things need to run in through here and then into our dash, and we need to get inside the cabin. As well as I need to fish out somewhere down here. I left our what's it called? The OBD2 signal wire. So I got to grab the signal wire, those 2 wires, run them into the dash, get the OBD2 into the dash, and get the AEM True Boost gauge inside the car, because both those things have to be hooked up before we can drive. All right, everything's wired up in a very temporary way. That's why we have that rat's nest there, and obviously the zip tie installed, gauge pod, and OBD2 port. But here we go. So it runs from, we're picking up some wires down there, and then we have some of the other stuff running in there, comes in there, through there, down and out here. So let's see if this is working. If it's working when we hit this button. My stereo's on backwards. It's turning on when the car is off, and it's turning off when the car is on. Watch this. Turn the car on. Well, didn't turn off that time. Anyways, okay, so our boost gauge is on, and our OBD2 port. Can't quite tell if it's scanning yet, but if one's working, the other one's gonna work. So that's good. Those are installed. We're getting close. We're getting close. All right, down to 2 things left. I gotta reinstall the exhaust that we took off in the last episode. Only problem is that now there's that new transmission mount, and I think some of the bolts are gonna get in the way a little bit, but I'll figure that out while I'm down there. And then I need a battery tie down just in case, so the battery doesn't fall into the turbo manifold. That would be terrible and could potentially be very dangerous. So gotta run with a battery tie down on this one. That's it, and then it's time to make a path and get this thing the hell out of the shop. We are pretty much running out of daylight. I have 30 minutes until we're out of daylight. I probably don't, I don't know how this is gonna go, but let's get the work done first, then we'll see what we have to deal with as far as driving. The car is ready to roll, but unfortunately, it's pitch black outside. We lost the race against time, but I've got an idea. Boom, here we are. In what I would call a vehicular testing grounds, what most people would call a Kmart parking lot. Car's got a 2J in it. Let's drive it. All right, what I can tell you guys already just from driving it here is this car is really low, so expect some scraping as we do this. But other than that, I know nothing about it. I got a full tank of gas, and so I thought my vehicle speed sensor would work because a lot of people said that it should, and it doesn't. So the transmission, I could tell the ATF top up we did yesterday, we didn't get it all the way full. That's a little pissed off. I'm gonna try and hunt out some of the smoother parts on this place. Brakes are working well, power steering's working well. We got into 1 PSI boost there, boys. Woo! All right, I think this part's a little bit smooth. I'm gonna gun it and see how we do here. We got up to 4 PSI. We're spooling. Oh, I'm so excited about this. So the tires are rubbing, exhaust is scraping. Another thing, this car's too quiet. This car's just, it's too damn quiet. Let's see how we're doing on the pad here. Our coolant's at 170. Everything else looks fine. I'm thinking that in my gauge pod, what I think I want to do is I'm going to do, obviously the boost controller is going to go over here, and then I think I want to go with the engine temperature sensor, and then wideband. I think would be really good. Let's give it another just full throttle jam on it. Got to 5 PSI there. All that blow off valve sound is not going to get, it's never going to get annoying. I love it. This is my first, since I never really got to drive the Mustang in battle yet, this is my first turbocharged car, I believe. I can't really remember, but I'm pretty sure. It's definitely the first one that I put this much work into. All right, I think we're ready for freeway. It steers right, it brakes well. I don't have blinkers because I don't have a front bumper or anything. Let's get this. Dude, at 5 PSI, this car pulls. Oh my God, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. This is gonna be awesome. All right, let me use my hand turn signals here. I gotta navigate us back to the shop. This is the greatest. The greatest. Getting some interesting looks on the streets. For those of you that remember, this is also the same road that when we built the Apocalypse G35, half of the front of its face fell off and then we ran over it in the streets. This is that road. I keep looking at the dash to check for like check engine lights or, you know, things that have gone wrong, and obviously there's nothing in the dash. Our coolant's staying at about 170, so that's great. None of the rest of this stuff is telling me anything really. Alright, well, I guess this has been a shakedown. I'm sorry, it was a little short. To be honest, I got to get back under the car and get to work finishing up more stuff. I mean, what can I say? The engine's running great. We're holding at temperature. I know it's too low, so I got more work to do, but I think this was the shakedown. I'm gonna head back to the shop and we'll do a little checkup on the engine and a recap. All right, well, that was a pretty damn fun shakedown. I'm super excited that the car is working. I'm very proud of this engine swap, and we're far from done, but that was a really large first step. What went wrong? We have an oil leak. It's from that sandwich adapter thing. That was a pretty low quality one that I installed in there. And at least to get ready for the dyno, I'm gonna pull that out because the oil leak is pretty bad. So I'm gonna pull that out, put the filter back on. We don't have an overflow hose or an overflow tank, so when a little bit of fluid did come out of the cap, sprayed all over the windshield. That wasn't brilliant, but not the end of the world. The serpentine belt is eating itself, and we're low on transmission fluid, and the car is just too low on the ground. But that's what you find out in a shakedown. So I'm super stoked. That's it for this episode, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I have 2 more days now to prepare this car. Well, I have 1.5 days to prepare this car for the dyno session, and I'm very, very excited about that. And so I have a lot of work to do. So I'm gonna cut this episode here. Will I make it to the dyno session? Find out in the next episode. Thanks for watching, guys. Please remember to like and subscribe. Oh, I'm going to do this one backwards. And if you like Beast for Build, you want to help out and support, head over to beastforbuild.com. Scroll down to the shop, pick yourself up a hat or a key tag like this one, or any of our other merchandise, and all the proceeds of that go towards supporting these builds. Thank you guys all so much that have done that. And if you want to find us on social media, pick your favorite one and search for B is for Build, and you will find us on there. Thanks for watching, guys. See you tomorrow. Peace!